Hey folks, Dustin DePirac here. New columnist Jeremy Price. This would be his introduction to Scoop Talk. We actually shot one earlier and never posted it. So this is his real debut. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing good. The
Good.
last one was so good, we just
Exactly,
post it.
exactly. It was just too awesome. You guys wouldn't have been able to handle it, so we got rid of it. But anyway, I just got back from the end of the May Classic. Don't have to watch AAU again until July. But anyway, so saw some interesting stuff. And Jeremy was there yesterday, and it's an interesting kind of weird timing in Indiana recruiting, just because they're so they've got so many players in the 2011 and 12 classes that they haven't been as heavy into these next two 2013, 2014, and obviously some of these guys have been the guys that they do have been committed for a while. But got to see some of them. Got to see a little bit more of Devin Davis and Colin Hartman this week, and some of the guys that they're going after in future classes, 2015, even 2016. So I guess we should start with Davis and Hartman, the guys that have been committed since last November. They committed shortly after Cody Zeller did. This is probably your first chance to really sit down and watch them. Just what'd you think about what you saw from those two guys?
Yeah, this is the first time I've gotten to see those guys extensively. And yesterday was the first time I'd seen Hartman in a couple of years, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good to get a look at those guys. I like what I see out of Davis, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
People are all over the map on him, but I like what he brings to the table. It's something a little different, and and he's definitely got that versatility that Tom Crean talks about looking for, especially on the defensive end. I think, which is what makes
very
him
much so,
so
and rebounding
intriguing.
for sure, absolutely. I mean, as far as just to weigh in on Davis, I mean, he's a different type of player, but like he has at least part of the sort of Sheehy Oladipo gene. He's a different player because he's more post-oriented. He likes to play more with his back to the basket, is better able to make moves that way, whereas obviously Oladipo and Sheehy have always been, really perimeter guys, not necessarily three-point shooters, but guys that like to at least start their offense, start what they like to do beyond the three-point line. Davis is a guy who likes to get it on the block, and it makes for a difficult situation for him because he's 6'6", 200 pounds, and he's, pretty big dude for his size. I mean, he's fill out, muscles, can throw people around a little bit, but in high school he can do that without any problem. He can just out rebound everybody. In college it's a different ballgame because he'll be giving up 3-4 inches, probably 10 pounds, something like that, 10, 15 pounds.
I like the lineup possibilities that he brings there.
Yeah.
You can go with a small lineup and play him as a 4, an undersized 4. You can go and play him as a 3, and it almost gives you a bigger lineup because he plays a little bigger than
a lot
6'6", especially when it comes to rebounding and post play. So
yeah,
I like that aspect of things.
He really gets up and he can defend extremely well. As he can really defend 1 to 4. I mean, 5 might be a bit much, especially when you're talking about the college level, and he is giving up again 3, 4, 5 inches. But he can keep a point guard in front of him. He can obviously front a post guy, stuff like that. He's like really, really quick and just can handle the beating. It's just a tough guy, and just the tenacity is really, really impressive. I mean, you're still at the point where he doesn't have all those 3 skills that you want.
Right.
He's not necessarily a shooter. He can hit it from time to time, but he's not a guy that you can rely on in sort of the Christian Watford sense of being able to leave him out there and shoot from the left wing. He can drive, though. He can really slash. I mean, not necessarily breaking 2 and 3 guys down, but really does good at driving in straight lines and break some guys down a little bit. Hartman, I think Hartman's an interesting situation. He shoots it well, but we're not seeing with the team he plays on. He didn't shoot it a heck of a lot. Really didn't score that much this weekend at all. I mean, both of those guys play for Eric Gordon All Stars. That's a loaded team. Ended up winning the 17 and under title after they looked horrendous their first 2 games. They had lost to an Indiana Elite team that's really not that loaded. I mean, they kind of had Indiana Elite after the humongous classes they just had is not really as great at the 17s and 16s. They've got a great 15 and under team though that just won. They haven't lost yet. They're 29 and 0 this year. But they that Eric Gordon team lost to Indiana Elite's 17 and under team and got pounded in that one. Really were kind of losing it, reeling, and a lot of squabbling, stuff like that. Got it back together, won the title. But Hartman hit a couple big free throws to put that one away. But you didn't see a ton of scoring from him this weekend. He might have been, I don't know if he had 20 points in the tournament.
Yeah.
But he still he brings something. I mean, for one thing, he can spot up shoot. I mean, we didn't see a ton of that this weekend. But that is going to be something they're going to need. Roth, obviously, who knows if he's going to be there this year. Jordy Hulls has one more year, and then you kind of need a three-point shooter. And I think Hartman, can be that guy. I mean, Austin Etherington, presuming he's still there as well. that gives them two guys. And I think you need that.
Yeah, you didn't see Hartman shoot the ball a lot this weekend, but I thought you did see what he brings in terms of floor spacing.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
guys were very aware of the fact that he was a capable shooter, and so they were making sure to call out where he was at and communicate that fact. And so the floor spacing he brings there, also the size he has, I think that's important because you know, he gets that ball on the perimeter, he's going to be able to shoot over most anybody that's flying at him. You know, getting the shot off is not a problem.
No, he's about 6'6". I mean, he can pass it pretty well. He's got an okay handle. He's not great at getting the ball to the rim, but I mean, he can handle it in open space a little bit. Passes the ball well. Smart guy, good, you know, general basketball IQ. I do think the thing is, I think people would have expected him to see just more versatile scoring by now. I mean, I remember watching him when he was still with 15 and unders back with when he was playing with Indiana Elite back then, and he could just dominate. I mean, it was different because they didn't have the level of talent that this Eric Gordon team has. He doesn't have to kind of just take the ball from those guys, or you know, they were just really making a point to get him the ball. I mean, he was clearly the number one option on the team he played with as a 15 and under. I think they won. I want to say they won the Adidas Invite title that year, and it was just sort of him, you know, really just them getting the ball to Hartman, and you're not seeing that. I mean, you're not seeing him demanding the basketball. You're not seeing him demanding his offense, and I think you would have expected to see that development by now. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean he's behind, but I think they would have expected sort of a little bit more versatility from him at this point.
Yeah, I know. Well, for me, it'd be interesting to see. You know, he just finished playing with a travel team over in Europe.
Right.
16 or 17.
Yeah, 17 on the team. I think. Yeah.
And apparently did fairly well. You know, not that he was scoring 20 points a game or something, but he was giving himself 8, 10, 12 points a game. And, you know, it would have been interesting to see him in that scenario, what he was doing. It might have been more comfortable than he is with this group.
There's that, and it didn't help also that he suffered a concussion a couple weeks ago and was really dinged up by that one. Just said, you know, it took him a while to remember it. You know, so he's still maybe shaking off some cobwebs. He didn't play last week, didn't play the last 2 weeks, missed a week of school.
That can make you a little hesitant to go to the basket too.
It'll do, yeah. That might be some of the issue. I mean, he can rebound okay. He can defend pretty well. You know, not great at either of those things, but useful. You know, not a guy that's purely just a shooter, but that's clearly the thing that he stands out. I think other than that, the things I guess we really saw, you know, we could talk about Davis and Hartman for a while longer, but you know, this is probably Jeremy's first chance, really my second chance to see the young guys that they're really getting after. And they've made some scholarship offers early. Hiram Edwards is a 2015 kid. Eric Gordon's a 2016 kid. He hasn't been in high school yet, and he has a scholarship offer from Indiana. But I've seen him a couple times, both of those guys a couple times, and I'm not really surprised. I mean, you really look at it and you say, does this look risky to me? You know, Jalen Coleman's another guy who already had an offer for a while, also 2015 kid. And you see all three of them, and I would say especially Gordon and Edwards, and I say, that's not that risky. I'm not really, I feel pretty safe that they're going to be good Division I players. I mean, what was just your kind of thoughts the first time seeing them?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. These guys are not, you know, it doesn't take you long to watch them to realize that these guys are a little different. A lot of times you tend to go in with a little skepticism, especially when you're watching a young kid like that, and there's been all this talk and sort of hype around them and how good they are and how good they can
and you almost don't want to add into it, especially if you're a reporter or something like that. You don't want to be like, it is weird to put this much pressure, this much hype on these kids when they're 15, 16, and you think to yourself, what was I doing at 15 and 16, and could I have possibly handled that? But like you said, I think you look at him and you just kind of know. You're like, you know what, that guy's going to be a player. I mean, Hiram Edwards is really just a special point guard, just great court vision, outstanding speed. He's got that Yogi gene in terms of just being able to break away, get the ball. You know, he's really good at getting just his hands on the basketball on defense, turning that into a transition situation, and then running away from guys. I mean, get the ball out of somebody's hands, take him off the dribble, and just go. And the guy who gave the ball up has no chance of catching up. He's got that kind of speed.
Yeah, what I find interesting with Edwards is you see little bits of, you like to compare him to certain players, but you see little different bits, and he can do different things. I mean, there are times he can take over as a scorer. I know a couple weeks ago at Fisher's, I think he said Allen Iverson was one of his idols or whatever, and
you can see a little bit of that. You know, I mean, that's really.
But he also has a really good knack for passing the ball, and he does it with some flair too. So,
he does. Yeah, he does.
You know, he doesn't mind doing the no look behind the back, over the head, whatever.
No, and that team shares the ball really well. I mean, those guys kind of know where each other is. It's a really exceptional basketball team for a 15 and under guy. You know, a 15 and under group. Some of them have been together, but they they do really kind of see the floor well. They kind of know where each other is going to be. It's a really impressive thing to watch. And Hiron, they didn't even have him in the finals, but it was still pretty impressive. But Hiron's probably the best out of all that. Just finding cutters, finding guys, getting to the basket, leading a break and doing that really well. Can do all those things. And he's like 6'1" and he can dunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like he absolutely has some springs in his legs. Didn't this week because he had an ankle issue, but really can do that well. And I guess we switched over. Aaron Gordon. I mean, it's bizarre to be writing about an 8th grader in this terms, but really impressive. It's amazing how strong the kid is.
Yeah,
he's like 6'2", amazing against contact. It's unbelievable, really.
I don't remember 8th graders looking like that when I was
No,
in school.
he's got a beard and braces. It's mind blowing. It's just like how, what? But I mean, he goes to the hole, just draws contact, and can sort of just hang in the air and make a bucket, just make a play. And there's just a lot of things that, I mean, guys 4 years younger than him can't do yet. Guys, you see guys that are seniors and trying to get a look, and one of the issues they have is finishing against contact, being able to go up, get hit, and still kind of keep control and put a decent shot up and make a layup. And he's at a different level with that in 8th grade. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
honestly.
part of that's his physical maturity, but
yeah, and the genes are there. I mean, Eric Gordon could do that.
It never hurts a kid like that when they've played against their older brothers, Eric and Evan. I mean, obviously he's probably been beat on and beat on and beat on.
Little bit. I can't imagine Eric playing him though. Like Eric's in the NBA.
Yeah.
How could that game have gone down when like Eric was in Indiana and Aaron was 10?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's pretty amazing. I guess to move on a little bit because we got to get it going. I mean, we've seen some. You saw the Spring Classic a little bit. I saw some Fort Wayne. Who's the most impressive player you've seen this spring totally? Preferably that Indiana's at least going after.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I would say probably that surprised me with how good they were. It was probably Hiron Edwards. I mean, I really didn't expect that much.
Right.
In spite of all the hype, I really didn't expect that much when I first saw him play, and I think he certainly exceeded that. And probably a close second was, I was pretty impressed with what we saw of Luke Fisher.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago. That was I've watched a lot of film on him online, but it's always different to get a firsthand look. And I thought he was an impressive kid, especially when you consider he's still got another year of high school to go, and he's probably still growing in a lot of ways.
Not a little bit. Yeah, I mean he's very much. He's very much following the Cody Zeller track. I've said poor man's Cody Zeller a few times talking about him. Like, you can't put somebody really in that sphere of what Zeller accomplished and just how good he was when he arrived and what he was able to do in his first year in Indiana. But the kind of touch around the basket, the way his frame is sort of filling out, like legs first, like Cody was. I mean, really up until last year, Zeller was only slowly starting to put the weight on and develop some kind of upper body, and you really saw it just come together super fast when he got to Indiana. Fisher's still in that case where his, upper body is real thin, but the legs, and he's got some power. He's able to seal guys off because he has that lower body strength. He's able to make really good post moves. I mean, really good post moves and really good touch around the basket. Defends pretty well, protects the rim extraordinarily well, and looks like a guy. I mean, he was sort of, I guess in a way, I mean, he's the lowest ranked guy, and you could say he's the most under the radar guy that they got, but he might end up being the best player in that class.
Well, you tend to compare him to Cody, but when I watch him, especially if he adds another inch or two, I think maybe he's a little more like Tyler Zeller, a little more of a center type.
He doesn't necessarily have. Cody does have an outside game. I promise. You haven't seen it yet, but it's there. I've seen it. I promise. He can be. He could have been a 4 skill wise if he didn't put the size on. If they didn't need somebody to play in the middle, he can hit an 18-foot jump shot. Apparently Fisher can, probably not at the level, but he can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're about to run out of time really fast. So, but anyway, that's Jeremy Price's first Scoop Talk. It's awesome. Right. And I don't know when we'll be doing this again, but we will. So there's your spring recruiting May Classic update. Thanks.